So what if getting rich wasn't just about hard work or luck in the market, but about following a very specific divine blueprint? Today, we're going to dive into a spiritual framework for prosperity, one that looks at how to unlock and manage wealth for a much higher purpose.
And that's really the big question our sources are digging into. The idea here isn't just about earning more money, but about plugging into a divine plan for wealth. So what does this blueprint actually look like? Let's find out.
Okay, here's our game plan. First, we're going to start with the why, the actual purpose of wealth in this system. Then we'll get into the how it's generated through some pretty fascinating ideas like supernatural revenue and something called the great wealth transfer. After that, we'll look at the mindset you need to handle it all, and finally, the big responsibilities that come along with it.
So, first things first. Before we even get into how you get the money, the sources are really clear. You have to understand why. Because in this framework, money is not the end goal, not even close. It's just a powerful tool for a much, much bigger mission.
And this right here is the absolute core of it all. It's a concept called covenantal enablement. Basically, it's the belief that the ability to generate wealth is a gift, a tool you're given, and its purpose isn't for personal comfort, but to establish what the sources call God's covenant here on earth.
So what does that look like in the real world? Well, we're talking about funding things on a global scale, lending to entire nations, being a massive blessing to those in need, and bankrolling a spiritual kingdom. It's all about becoming a source of positive, tangible results in the world.
Okay, so if that's the why, then how in the world is this wealth supposed to show up? Well, this is where things get really interesting. We're moving beyond normal business strategies and into what the source material calls supernatural revenue channels.
And you know what's fascinating is that this whole process doesn't kick off with some big action plan or investment. It actually starts inside your head. It all begins with a moment of insight, a kind of mental and spiritual light bulb going off that opens the door to new financial possibilities.
And this slide just lays out the flow perfectly. It starts with that illumination in the mind. That leads to receiving what are called divine ideas. These are creative concepts for businesses, inventions, you name it. And those ideas are what then manifest into real, tangible streams of income. It's a straight line from insight to cash flow.
This quote from the material really captures the heart of it. Notice the language here. It's an active statement. It's not, I hope to get ideas. It's a declaration. I receive them. It's this belief that these divine ideas are the direct engine of financial growth.
Now, creating wealth from new ideas is one thing, but the framework has another mechanism that's, well, it's even more unique. It's this idea that wealth isn't always something you have to build from scratch. Sometimes it's just transferred to you.
This is what's known as the great wealth transfer. The core belief is that assets and resources that have been accumulated by those outside this faith system, who are labeled here as the sinner, are actually divinely redirected to believers to help them get their mission done.
And once again, this isn't some passive hope. It's a bold declaration. The claim is really direct, to literally take over already successful flourishing businesses and contracts, essentially to inherit assets that you didn't have to build from the ground up.
Now, this whole idea isn't just pulled out of thin air. The source material grounds this belief in specific biblical passages, like the ones you see cited right here. These verses are interpreted as the foundation for this principle, that wealth can and does change hands as part of a divine plan.
So what kind of wealth are we talking about? Well, it's not abstract. The sources get really specific. We're talking about tangible, ready-to-go assets, houses that are already fully furnished, infrastructure like wells you didn't have to dig, established farms, and even thriving businesses. The whole idea is stepping into wealth that is already complete and working.
Okay, so you've got these channels for wealth opening up, but that's just one part of the equation. You have to have the right internal operating system to actually manage it all. And that brings us to the steward's mindset. It's kind of like the operator's manual for this whole system.
And at the very heart of this mindset is a choice, really. You see it here on the screen. On one side, there's relying on your own human logic, trying to figure it all out yourself, which they say just leads to stress and anxiety. But on the other side, there's aligning with divine wisdom, which is said to bring perfect peace and success. Two very different paths.
The ultimate goal, the state you want to be in, is what's called the mind of Christ. Now, think of this like a kind of divine intelligence, a supernatural insight that gives you perfect clarity on any situation, any circumstance. It's positioned as the ultimate strategic advantage for making the right moves.
And this declaration is a central pillar for maintaining that mindset.
The idea is that fear and anxiety just cannot coexist with managing this kind of abundance. The goal is to operate from a place of power, love, and a sound mind, one that can handle huge responsibility without getting rattled.
And the sources provide a really practical toolkit for this mental management. It's all about daily habits, making verbal declarations of faith, consciously handing over your worries through prayer, and just actively refusing to let fear or intimidation get a foothold. It's a very disciplined way to keep your head in the game.
All right, so this brings us to the big finale, the most important question of all. The wealth is there, the mindset is right, now what? What is all of this for? What are you actually supposed to do with it?
And the answer is crystal clear. This is not about piling up cash for yourself to live a life of luxury. That's not the point. The wealth is a responsibility. It comes with a clear set of duties, and you're not the owner. You're the manager, the steward.
And these duties bring us right back to where we started. The steward is expected to manage all of it with excellence, use it to advance a spiritual kingdom, be a blessing to people in need, lend to nations, and maybe most importantly, stay in that spiritual alignment that made the whole thing possible in the first place.
And so, that really leaves us with this final thought, which wraps the entire framework up. According to these sources, wealth isn't the prize at the end of the game. It's just a tool. The real question is, what is it that you're meant to build with it?